All right, it is Rommel Acta with Element 5 Fitness, and today's short presentation, I'm just going to cover basically how to overcome the three, what I consider the most common fitness obstacles that are happening today. And actually, it's pretty much something that has come about in the past 6 to 8 months with clients. And I mean, there's always going to be a host of other obstacles to overcome during your fitness journey, but for today's purposes, I am going to address what seems to be the most common three at the moment. So we're just going to get right to it. Excuse me on that. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to provide you some simple strategies to overcome these common three obstacles. And like I said, let's just get started. Now, common obstacle number one, I'm just so busy. So really what's going on here is that once we have a slight slip up in our schedule, and I am definitely guilty of this, it's we just simply need to acknowledge it and then take the necessary steps to combat that. And an example is if you're getting too busy by the time it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and me and my aunt and Sophia actually were talking about this. It gets really challenging to motivate yourself to get a workout in, and so sometimes you just have to flip the switch on making that decision to work out earlier in the day, even though it's one of those things that you typically say, "Oh, I just hate working out in the morning. I'm just not a morning person." Well, sometimes it takes that drastic of a switch and change in order to combat this "I'm so busy" mentality, right? And even for me, even though I mean, this is my fitness is my passion. This is my industry. I can get extremely busy, and there are times when it almost seems like I'm not really leading by example. But what I typically do is, before I'm about to head out the door to drop the kids off to daycare, is I get anywhere from a 5 to 10 minute short burst workout, and I love utilizing the tactic protocols that I teach clients. But in short, there's always ways to fit it in. It's just a matter of making that decision, right? It's always going to come down to um, those crucial decisions with any goal, with any um, troubleshooting of the obstacles, right? And really, what happens there is the more that you start doing this, and I like to tell people, give yourself these short challenges, like try it for 7 days, and then how to go for 7 days, and try it again for another 7 days. And by the time you get to the 30th day, then it's become a habit, right? But the hardest part is really just making that initial change. But acknowledge it and make that decision, and then it won't be so daunting. But the thing is that when you start to move in that direction, it's going to provide a sense of well-being, and then you're going to gain a lot of confidence by just those not short but small wins and those accomplishments. So yeah, it'll increase the energy throughout the day as well once you start working out earlier in the day. There's always going to be this argument of, oh, what's the best time to work out in your day? Don't even worry about that. If you happen to be working a graveyard shift, and obviously, coming off that graveyard shift, and let's say you get off at 6 a.m. and then you're thinking you're going to go get a workout at 7 a.m., but it's just not going to happen, then your schedule is going to be different. Go sleep, take a nap, whatever you need to do, and then coming out of that nap, if you need to have a meal or a protein shake, whatever, just to kind of jumpstart metabolism again after the nap, then getting the workout in, then those are some simple strategies in regards to um, I'm just so busy. Now, the next one, which is common obstacle number 2, the I'm injured all the time. Well, this is definitely a tough one, and it seems that a lot of people are getting injured more consistently. And my take on that, especially since I do have some corrective exercise experience and credentials, is people are getting lazy on their warm-ups and especially on their cooldowns. People just kind of want to get into the meat of their workouts, and I mean that's cool and all in terms of just wanting to get things done, but you always got to take care of the body before the workout and as well as after the workout, because recovery is key, and we do the damage during the workout in order to create the stimulus for change, but we want to make sure that the body is prepped accordingly, and that still has to happen even post-workout. So everyone knows about the warm-up, but we also have to be very mindful of the cool down. Now, of course, you're going to want to work with trainers who can teach you the appropriate protocols for warm-ups and cool downs, especially if you have limitations. If you've got a sprained ankle, or maybe you've got a previous injury that you always have to be careful of. We've got a few clients in our group training classes that have shoulder injuries, and we have a few clients who have nagging hip injuries, things like that. And we want to make sure that the positions that they're in are going to be optimal and pain-free, but they can still, burn calories, attack body fat, and at the same time maintain strength and increasing strength. So, being proactive in terms of seeking out help from your fitness professional, your trainer, maybe even your yoga instructor if that's the case, or if you have a physical therapist, and putting down those guidelines, whatever, into a binder, into a fitness journal, whatever it may be, but just making sure that you say to yourself, okay, I need to do A before the B, and then make sure I do the C, right? So A being the prep work on your warm-up, and then B being the meat of your workout, and then C being your cool down. Don't neglect those things, okay? The faster you can recover from your workout, the less injured you'll get, and in fact, in some cases, you'll actually enhance recovery from an injury, right? But being able to stay active to a certain degree is going to be key, and will also keep you in a very good mental state, keep those endorphins flowing, because the last thing we want is to just sit on the couch as we're injured and start moping, and then 2-3 weeks goes by, and then it's one of those negative habits again, and it's going to lead to some negative patterns, right? So remind yourself that you've only got so much time to heal, and before you know it, you're going to be back in the gym hitting it hard, but making sure that everything is dialed in, right? In terms of the prep work and the cool down surrounding the workout, right? So don't make the I'm injured thing an excuse. Go seek out a good fitness professional that can teach you some prep work and cool down, and then you're pretty much good to go. And lastly, common obstacle number 3. I'm so exhausted and I have no energy. Now, a lot of times, this is going to come down to supportive nutrition. The reason I say a lot of times is because sometimes it's also going to come down to just, I'm just going to be blunt with it, a lazy mindset, right? We're going to come up with good stories, good excuses to convince ourselves that we are exhausted, that we have no energy. But, the first thing to do is take a good look at nutrition and making sure that based on your schedule, for example, I get up pretty much every day at 4:30, at the latest it'll be 5. I have clients pretty much every day at 5:30 in the morning. Now, I am not about 10 years ago, I would always have to have breakfast right when I wake up, even if it's a protein shake. And things have changed with my metabolism and with the way that I feed myself and my energy levels, that I can actually hold off till about 9 a.m. And depending on if it's a recovery day, I can even hold off till 11 a.m. It's not a bad thing. It's called intermittent fasting. I'm not going to really go into that, um, but for me, that is actually a really good strategy in terms of maintaining energy levels in the morning, because then what ends up happening for me is that I don't get that initial crash 20 minutes after a meal, because even if I don't have starchy carbohydrates in my shake, for example, let's just say it's a protein shake, you can still have a little bit of a blood sugar spike, and then it'll crash down, and then you're going to get a little sleepy with that, feel a little lethargic. And that's something that I discovered now in regards to how my body reacts. But for some people, they need to make sure that they are having breakfast every time that they wake up. Throughout the day, what kind of snacks are you having? Are they always protein dominant? Because that's a huge thing, right? You want to make sure that protein is going to be the base of any meal or any snack, especially if we're looking for fat loss nutrition and supportive nutrition, right? So yes, just making sure that we are mindful of those pieces in regards to nutrition, so that we can, if that's not in, then we can kind of X that out in regards to the blame game. Then what I kind of mentioned, secondly to that, was more of a lazy mindset, right? And because what happens is, if we're stressed out and we're constantly telling ourselves that we're exhausted, we are going to believe that immediately. And so we definitely have to put ourselves in check. And okay, maybe you're going to say that, gosh, I'm exhausted, I have no energy. Well, my advice is to, okay, acknowledge that, take a step. If you're at home, whatever it may be, in your office, do a few squats. Do about a minute's worth of squats. Do a few push-ups. Walk around, walk up the stairs. All it takes is 60 to 90 seconds to elicit the appropriate feel-good brain hormones or chemicals, right? And then before you know it, you're going to be moving for like 15 minutes, and then you're going to get a huge mental boost from that. And then you're going to kind of, if you do that, what the challenge that I have for you is to recognize that, and then say like, oh, well, then what really was my excuse there? Because man, I'm full of energy. I am just pumped. Like let's go get some weightlifting on, things like that. Whatever it may be, whatever gets you pumped up. But if we can eliminate the blame game from the nutrition, and then take a look at our mindset on that piece, then yes, then that won't be an obstacle anymore. I really don't want to go real deep on these obstacles. I just wanted to give you guys some really simple tidbits. And one thing I actually forgot to mention at the beginning of this short presentation was that, when it comes to obstacles, the odds are definitely against us. And based on whatever research you're reading, it can be anywhere from about 50, 54% up to 88% of people's goals going unfulfilled, especially from what we've established in the new year, right? And we're already halfway into 2014. So how are those resolutions going? So hopefully you can take some of the mini tidbits that I've used to address these common 3 obstacles that I'm dealing with clients at the moment, and make that work for you. And so, thank you, and always remember, be awesome.